Adapt or die. Pragmatic leaders do what it takes. Next up, Session 13, Part 1. Analyze provider performance problems. Does the teacher have a want-to problem due to inadequate management? This is how we can use the EARS process to solve an organizational performance engineering problem at a school for children with autism. If we have evaluated the student's progress and found that the student is not making efficient progress, then our next step is to analyze provider performance problems in order to identify useful causes so that we can recommend changes in provider resources, training, and management, and solve provider performance problems by designing and implementing recommended solutions. And if we're successful, then when we evaluate student progress again, we'll now see that the student is making efficient progress. Remember, this is the teacher's performance that we are now analyzing in order to find out whether or not there's a performance problem that we can solve by designing and implementing provider resources, training, and management so that the student can make efficient progress towards mastery. The need for analysis. When a student is not making efficient progress, instead of blaming the student, parents, or teacher, we can analyze the teacher's performance problems to identify useful causes. There are three types of provider performance problems. The want-to, know-how, and can-do problem. Want-to problems are due to inadequate management. Know-how problems are due to inadequate training. Can-do problems are due to inadequate resources. Does the teacher have a want-to problem? Suppose your teacher is not implementing a procedure consistently. When there's an opportunity to choose between implementing the procedure correctly or doing something else, he or she does something else. So then we can measure time on and off task for implementing the procedure consistently. If the teacher spends more time off task than on task, he or she has a want-to problem. On the other hand, if the teacher consistently implements the procedure, 0 time off task, you can rule out the want-to problem. Now you can see in this case that the teacher did not have a want-to problem, right? All of her time was spent on task, 0 time off task for her teacher time allocation for implementing the procedure. So no, the teacher does not have a want-to problem due to inadequate management. If she did, we could identify the causes of want-to problems by conducting a descriptive or ABC analysis of teacher performance to identify consequences that might be affecting his or her performance. If the balance of consequences for teacher performance supports engaging in activities other than the activity necessary to produce desired student results, then you have a want-to problem due to inadequate management, specifically the types of consequences for teacher performance. Are management resources missing critical elements and or features? Is the supervisor implementing the management resources incorrectly or inconsistently? Here's an example of an ABC analysis of teacher want-to problems, where the current behaviors are leaving school early, calling in sick, skipping meetings, and resigning from school, versus the desired behaviors, implement teaching procedures consistently with students. So if we look at the consequences of each of the current behaviors versus the desired behaviors, something interesting appears. So we have escape student problem behaviors. If you leave school early, call in sick, skip meetings, resign from school. Escape supervisor criticism, escape student regression. And when we classify those consequences, they can be classified as preferred, not preferred, based on the preferences, observed preferences of teacher behavior, immediate, future, and certain and uncertain. When we have a consequence that is preferred, immediate, and certain, that's likely to be a possible reinforcer. On the other hand, the consequences for the desired behaviors, implementing teaching procedures consistently with students, if they are problem behaviors increase, student regresses, and supervisor criticizes, they can be classified as not preferred, immediate, and certain, in which case we have possible punishers. Does the balance of possible reinforcers favor current behavior? Yes. Therefore, we have a 1-2 problem due to inadequate management. Adapt or die. Pragmatic leaders do what it takes. Next up, session 13. Part 2. Analyze provider performance problems. Does the teacher have a know-how problem due to inadequate training?